Santhan. All Gujarat Integrated Classroom.
સેટેલાઇટના માધ્યમથી જોડતી કડી એટલે સંધાન.
Hello, students. I am Professor Paramasivan S. Velala. I am teaching economics for the last 15 years. I am with Nirma University for the last 10 years. So, today I have taken up the topics of production function and cost functions, which are the heart of microeconomics. We start with, in fact, in microeconomics with the utility function, moving into demand function, then moving into production function, and then we move to cost function. From there, we'll be able to understand the revenue function. That is whether the firm is actually entered into profit or loss. Right? That's what the ultimate objective of any firm, the business results. So let us move to today's two important topics, that is production and cost. When I talk about production function, it signifies the functional relationship between physical quantity of input and physical quantity of output. When I say Q is equal to F, K, L, T, R, these are various inputs, various variables. K, capital, L, labor, T, technology, or raw materials. So production is the function of all these inputs. One of the earliest form of production function is two American economists, Cobb Douglas, who founded Cobb Douglas production function, named after them. It says that production is the function of two important inputs, that is labor and capital. K indicates capital and L indicates labor. And X and Y, we say it can be alpha and beta. They are the proportionate. So we say alpha plus beta is equal to 1, which is the biggest lacuna of Cobb-Douglas production function, which assumes that the production function is on constant return to scale. And the second biggest lacuna of Cobb-Douglas production function is that it considers only two inputs, that is capital and labor. So gradually we moved into new and modern production function. And when we come to the modern production function, the first one is what we call it production function with one variable input. Popularly we call it short-term production function. The second one we can say production function with the two variable inputs, that's the long run. The short run normally is a period of 1 year, and long run normally we call it a period up to 5 years or so. So let us first understand the basic difference between the two. First is the production function with one variable input. The second is production function with the two variable factors. So if you take the first point of difference, that is a factor of proportion. In the first case, there are fixed factors and there are variable factors. At least one factor should be variable. As far as the long run or production function with the two inputs, both are variable. Now, since one factor is fixed and some of the factors is variable, no firm can achieve optimization in the short run, or what we call production function with one variable input. Firms are operating optimal. On the other hand, in the long run, you can achieve optimization, full utilization of the resources. We deliberately use the word can, because there are cases where in India, large number of public sectors are operating even in the long run below production capacity. Now scale. The question is, can we achieve scale in the short run? No, it's not possible. In the long run, we can achieve the scale. Scale means the volume of production. Now, the law governing the production function with one variable factor, we call it law of return to factor, also call it law of variable proportion. The law related to the long run, we popularly call it law of return to scale, or we can also call it the various IRS, CRS and DRS. Let us first come to the law of return to factor, or popularly called law of variable proportion. What does the law speaks? Holding technology constant, say the fixed factor, we constant, except one, there should be at least one variable factor which changes. And as the variable factor changes, the total output initially increases at an increasing rate. But we can analyze this only up to the point of inflection. We can see it that it happens only up to the point of inflection. Inflection is a point from there on, of course, the output increases, but at decreasing rate. Finally, the marginal physical product becomes negative. Okay, so we understand three important concepts here. Total output, we call it total product. Labor multiplied by quantity, the unit they produce. Average product is the total product divided by labor. Marginal product, in economics, marginal is very important. Marginal here, marginal there. Marginal way of thinking is the economic way of thinking. So marginal is very important. Marginal product is nothing but the slope of total product. Mathematically, we can say it is a derivative of total product function. So if you see the curve, the upper one is the total product curve. So the first dotted lines shows that the end of the first stage, which is the law of increasing return to factor. Then the law of diminishing return to factor. Diminishing does not mean the output falls. The output increases, but at decreasing rate. Finally, the total output start falling. You can see the marginal, the third curve, moving into negative. That means that the marginal product finally moves into negative. So let us move to the first stage, that is increasing return to factor. Why does it happen? It happens because initially the firm is able to achieve a division of labor and specialization. Because of that, you will be able to achieve higher efficiency of variable factor. Then there is gradual enhancement of the fixed factor. Finally, the optimization, we move into a optimum factor combination. All these increases the output at an increasing rate. But what happens after the point of inflection? What happens is that the output increases but at decreasing rate. Why? The first reason is that you are not getting perfect substitute of factor input. Some of them may go out, so you are not getting the best substitutes. That is the biggest HR challenge today. It's not recruitment. Give an ad, you will get recruitment if your company has a huge goodwill. But retaining the best workforce is the biggest HR challenge in today's contemporary business world. So that's not happening, and that's why the output started off increasing at decreasing rate. Then moving into the combination between fixed and variable gets disturbed, and that's why the output started off increasing at decreasing rate. Finally, we move to the stage, which is called the negative return to factor. This happens because the excessive addition of variable input to the fixity of fixed input, which you can again observe in the public sector. So many public sector companies, we are adding more and more labor to the existing plant. What happens is that the marginal output, see, every firm is interested in marginal. Marginal here, marginal there. The marginal way of thinking is the economic way of thinking. So when that gets affected, what happens? The excessive addition of variable input causes declining output. So there are three assumptions this law has been following. One, that's at least one variable input, that's why short. We don't consider the monetary terms, we consider only physical quantity of input and physical quantity of output. And again, this is not a theorem, it's an empirical one. So now move into the production function with the two variable output, what we can also call it long run. We can explain it with the help of isoquant curve. Iso means equal, quant means product. So isoquant means equal product curve. It shows different combinations of two different variables, say capital and labor, which can produce identical output. It's an identical output, so we call it equal product curve or isoquant curve. Now iso cost, we also need a budget. We can't freely produce. So there is an expense. So that is shown by the budget line, or we can also call it price line. So iso cost is the locus of different combinations of two factors, say capital and labor, which a firm can buy with constant outlay, given amount. So naturally, its slope can be proved to be equal to the ratio of the price of the two factor input, that's one is capital, another is labor. Now you see the equilibrium point. We can also say least cost input output combination. So the three curves shows you the isoquant curves, and the line is the iso cost line, and the point of E is the point of least cost combination, where you get both the the equal amount of output with the help of the maximum output with minimum cost. That's ultimately the objective of a firm. This isoquant curve can be explained. Again, we use the term to explain three different long-run production function. The first is called IRS. We call it increasing return to scale. The second is called constant return to scale, CRS. And the third one is called diminishing return to scale. Remember, whether it is increasing, constant or diminishing, outputs are increasing. Outputs are increasing in the first case at increasing rate, in the second case at constant rate, in the third case at diminishing rate. Does not mean output is falling. Output is increasing at diminishing rate. Now you see on my left is the CRS, constant return to scale. You can see the difference, the spread between the various isoquant curves. If you can see from the point of origin to the first isoquant curve, first to second isoquant, second to third isoquant curve, the distance is equal on the expansion path. That's why we call it constant return to scale. On my right side, if you see, the distance go on diminishes. That means you get the output doubled faster than the input gets doubled. That means what? We are getting faster rate. That's why the law of increasing return to scale sets in. Now let us see again increasing return to scale left side with diminishing return to scale on the right side. What happens here? From the point of origin in my right side, if you see the DRS, diminishing return to scale, the distance go on increases. That means, of course, output is increasing but at decreasing rate. That's very much visible from the distance between various isoquant curve on the expansion path. In short, very simple. 10% increase in input, if it produces 14% increase in output, it is IRS. 10% increase in input produce 10% increase in output, it is CRS. 10% increase in input produce 6% increase in the output. Remember, even 6% is increasing, but less than the 10%, so we call it DRS, diminishing return to scale. Now, every firm would like to know where lies the economic region, the region where the firm achieves economic efficiency. Whether you produce in the upstream, okay, or in the downstream, like in the petrochemical companies, in the chemical companies, okay, a lot of economic efficiency can be achieved in the downstream. In the refineries and all, you can achieve economics of region in the midstreams. In the distribution and all, you can achieve the economic region in the downstream. So whether it is upstream, downstream or midstream, economic region is very important for a firm because every firm ultimately aims at maximum output at minimum cost. If you could see large number of isoquant curves, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 isoquant curves are there, giving you 5 different level of outputs. And then you have the isocost lines also. And then from the point of origin, 2 ridge lines, R1 and R2. The R1 and R2 are the ridge line which bound the economic region. Every firm would like to produce in that region. That is the economic region of production, which is very, very important for a company to understand. Now we move to the second part of my lecture, that is cost function. Earlier we studied production function. Remember, production function is the functional relationship between physical quantity of input and physical quantity of output. When you reflect them in monetary terms, put the money, it becomes cost function. So cost function is nothing but the reflection of production function in monetary terms. Let us see some of the important cost determinants. The first, cost of plant and machinery. Second, the cost of land and building. Third, the cost of raw materials. Fourth, the cost of labor. My dear students, you can find difference between these. What difference you can find? The difference here is that the first two talks about the cost incurred in the fixed assets. So we can call them fixed cost. The second two are the expenditure incurred in the variable inputs. So we can call them variable cost. These variable costs change according to changes in the output in the short run. But in the short run, the fixed cost remain constant. So the cost function, particularly in the short run, if you study the cost function, you have two components. The first component is called fixed cost. We already studied in the earlier one. Fixed cost means expenditures in plant and machinery, expenditures in land and building, etc. Fixed remain fixed despite of changes in the level of output. The second one is the variable cost, that is the expenditures incurred in the raw materials, payment of labor, that is wages, etc., which change according to changes in the level of output. So, simple diagram. In a simple graphical matter, the constant fixed cost gives you what? That horizontal line. That horizontal line linear is TFC is constant. We say that it remains constant despite of changes in the level of output. Then right from unit 1, the total variable cost changes. So we can say that the slope of TC here is exactly caused by the slope of TVC. In other words, we can say delta TVC is nothing but delta TC. Or the other way, delta TC is nothing but the delta TVC. Because changes in TC is exactly will be equal to changes in the TVC since TFC remain constant. Now we further, in microeconomics, we do further classifications. We have to understand at micro level. So what does average fixed cost? When you have the total fixed cost divided by the output produced, you will get the average fixed cost. Fixed cost per unit of output. That's average fixed cost. Again, what is average variable cost? Variable cost per unit of output. That's why we have given the formula TVC divided by Q. And finally, for average cost or average total cost, you have two ways of calculating it. Either do the summation of the above two, that is AFC plus AVC, or simply divide the TC by quantity produced. You will get average